Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that's going to be podcasting whether we have the permits or not. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most weekends, are available to download in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks. It's nice. I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and you may be the first to say he's awesome, but let the record show I'm the second. It's Andrew Armsby.
Hey!
Or at
It's
least
a silhouette. It's a picture of me.
it's a picture of him. If you're watching this on the video podcast side of things, Andrew is going by his avatar today. So it's like I'm talking to a still image, Andrew.
I know. Sorry, but, I assume you'd rather see this than a big old me with bloody nose and bloody tissues in my nose. It is that time of year.
It's that time of year when Andrew gets his face beaten in.
By Mother Nature.
Right, by Mother Nature. Let's be very,
She
very
does
clear.
not pull her punches.
No, she doesn't. I shall finish the intro. Each week we chat about movies, television, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. Excited to do another Sif Pop today. And excited that you're joining us through various avenues. Some of you are listening. This is, the main way people listen to podcasts. Some of you are watching on YouTube. Either way, we love having you around. Jay Bourgeois, good to see you in the chat. The Biggest Nerd One says, Sir Dicer, how's it going? And the answer to that question is, it's going well. Things are going well.
Lord Dicer.
Lollipop Shoe says, whoop, here on time for the first time in weeks.
No, well, we're not.
That's right. We were a little delayed by technical difficulties. And then Nathan Riley hanging out. Let's go Sif Pop and Striker Watch here as well, hanging out with us. So, thanks for hanging out. We've got a nice group, even among the non-chatters, too. So we're excited to talk the Trial of the Chicago 7, as well as Hubie Halloween, two movies, both, I'm sure, same level of prestige. Going for all the same awards, probably at the Academy Awards. Very equal level movies that we're having conversations about tonight or this afternoon. So excited to get into that. Of course, we've got all the fun stuff that we usually do. We've got a best ever challenge after we review those, where we're going to look at best ever courtroom dramas. And we've got some buried treasure that we're going to get to as well. And if you are a Sif Pop member at the Patreon, patreon.com/SifPop, you can check out our conversation in our members-only pre-show. We talked about our favorite scary and non-scary Halloween movies, or movies that are good for the season. And I shouldn't even say favorite. We just gave a couple recommendations of a non-scary and a scary movie that might be good this time of year. So you can check that out as well. So it's good to be together. I think we should just get right into it, Andrew. Let's talk a little bit about the Trial of the Chicago 7. In 1969, 7 people were charged by the federal government with conspiracy and more arising from the protests at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. This movie comes to us from the wit and wisdom of Mr. Aaron Sorkin, who is directing his second film that he is directing. I think Molly's Game was the first time he sat in the director's chair. And if you've listened to Sif Pop for any length of time, that both Andrew and I enjoy the Sorkin. We're a bit of Sorkinites.
Yep.
Know that going in. I personally have watched everything he's done except for the last few seasons of The West Wing, and that's only because I haven't gotten through them yet. I came very late to The West Wing.
Well, technically, he left the West Wing.
That's true. It's a valid point. So maybe I have seen everything that Sorkin has done. But Sports Night, Newsroom, what was the other? Studio 60. So I've seen all the TV shows, and then, of course, Social Network, and he's an incredible writer, and we love him. But what did we think about Netflix's latest foray into the award season? Andrew, did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I loved it. I really did. I love this one. It's powerful.
I'm excited to talk about all the reasons why, but we are both in the loved it category on this. I needed a second watch. I watched some last night again, because there are things about this movie that I kind of struck me as a little bit out of time, and it almost feels in some way like a late 90s early 2000s movie in some ways, and I needed to kind of readjust my my idea of, okay, am I still okay with this kind of stuff, and when I say that, I just mean how it interacts with the emotion of the movie is very much, it's not ashamed of its emotion. It's not ashamed of bringing that stuff right to the forefront. And I guess you wouldn't expect anything less from Sorkin anyway. But yeah, so I had to kind of ponder a lot of those different things. What did you think as you were watching this and kind of came away from it? Kind of what were some of your first thoughts?
This is gonna blow your mind, or it might not. It took till the end credits to remind me that this was actually a Sorkin project,
Oh,
because
interesting.
so much of it doesn't feel like Sorkin. And I'm not talking about, just the cliched walk and talks and stuff like that, because that's not in this at all. But the dialogue seemed, I don't want to say slowed, but there's a rhythm, I guess you could say, to a Sorkin dialogue. This seemed more natural, I guess, if that makes sense, because you can look at an Aaron Sorkin movie, like take The Social Network, for example. The way people talk in that movie, while as fascinating and exciting as it is, it's not the way people talk in real life. You know,
Right.
this seemed more natural. The way that people would go back and forth talking to one another, you could definitely tell that the people who are speaking are incredibly intelligent. That's something that Sorkin always, is, a proprietor of. He always has
Sure.
smart people in, his projects. But it seemed like they were real, and maybe that's the fact that this is based off of, transcripts, that has something to do with it. But no, it did take a while for me to, or till the credits, like, oh yeah, this was Sorkin, wasn't it? Like, I knew it going in, but
Hmm.
as I was watching it, I just kind of forgot that, because I don't know. There's something when you're watching an Aaron Sorkin movie, for me, like it sticks with you the whole time. Like, oh man, I love this quick, fast-paced, witty dialogue. But this was more natural, and I appreciated it. It was really good.
I don't remember feeling that way,
Mm.
but now that you mention it, I think you're right. What's interesting is the quick paced repartee walk and talk kind of thing is certainly part of what I like about Sorkin. But what I love about Sorkin is just the way he uses words, how clever he is, how funny he is, and that is all here. Like that is a huge part of the characters in this movie. So even though they're not saying them maybe in exactly the same way you might hear down a hallway of the West Wing, you are definitely hearing things that are funny and interesting, and everybody's an ounce more clever than they probably would be in real life,
Yeah.
which is fine. I love that, but I think maybe you're right. I think maybe the kind of the overall tone and pacing of how that stuff is delivered is different. But then again, I may just be thinking of The Social Network and Jesse Eisenberg. Like Sorkin's words don't sound any. They're at their best in Eisenberg's mouth. Like it's just it's like he was built to do Sorkin dialogue in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
some of these performances don't lend themselves to that kind of quick paced verbal gymnastics. Thinking specifically of Mark Rylance's character, it just wouldn't feel right if that character was kind of what we're talking about, or even Abby Hoffman, even the Sacha Baron Cohen character.
Yeah.
There's, and I'm saying characters. Obviously, these are real people that they're portraying,
Sure. Sure.
and
Yeah.
also characters for that
Yeah.
matter. So it's one of those things where I think the best choice was made for the presentation of the movie, which I think is what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's not me saying that I didn't like those performances because they weren't Sorkinized. I mean, there's some performances in this that blew me away, and some of them aren't even the ones that I was expecting to blow me away too. I went into this thinking that Sacha Baron Cohen was going to, steal the movie, and he's
No,
great. Don't get me wrong, I
he
loved
is.
him. But honestly, there's three performances in this that I look at and I go, "Wow, you guys are good." And that's Yahya Abdul Mateen II is
Hmm.
just killing it. He's so good. The emotion that is just pouring out of this man.
Yep.
And then, as you mentioned, Mark Rylance is just, just chewing up scenery. But honestly, I think the best performance in this movie, that's got to go to Frank Langella. You just, you hate, you hate Hoffman so much.
Hmm.
And it takes a good actor to make me hate a character that much.
Yeah. And by
And,
Hoffman, just so we're clear, so the jury doesn't
oh,
misunderstand,
oh,
we're
yes.
talking about the Judge Hoffman, not Abby
Yeah.
Hoffman, who is Sacha
Yes.
Baron Cohen's character. Yes.
Yeah. You hate his ignorance, you hate his disdain, and you hate his prejudgmental
Hmm.
character. Uh, man, Frank Langella is good in this.
Really is.
If he's not as despisable as he is, I don't know if this movie, you know, has the weight because he is the representation. He's the face of the justice system,
Hmm.
and what's wrong with the justice system. And it's like, yeah, what these guys are fighting against is real. It's right
Yeah.
there in front of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great performance as they are down the line. What's interesting is if you look at the reality of this trial, which by the way went on forever, so it
Almost a
was
year, didn't it?
yeah, it was really an interesting thing to think of the project of whittling down this trial so it felt like a 2 hour movie or 2.5 or whatever it was. But yeah, I guess if you look back at the facts, Judge Hoffman was actually worse than he's portrayed in this movie. Like more senile, more judgmental, more racist. Like there are examples down the line of how he was. How they probably backed it off a little bit so that it didn't feel over the top. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that the person themselves was apparently, again, this is from reading up on it afterwards, but apparently the judge themselves was so that way that they had to dial it back a little bit just so the movie didn't feel so pedantic. So yeah, it's interesting to kind of consider that as well, and it is a great performance. I really don't think there's a bad performance here. Did you have any of these performances that you were like didn't
Oh,
enjoy?
no, performances, no. I mean, Eddie Redmayne's good. So is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But I think that there's a caliber of, greatness that is set by others that they don't live up to. Don't get me wrong, they're still good.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look right down the line and just love every performance here. There are some that stand out. I think we've mentioned them: Sacha Baron Cohen, Mark Rylance, Frank Langella, Yaya. But yeah, Eddie Redmayne, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Jeremy Strong, Michael
I did really
Keaton.
like Jeremy Strong in this. He's good.
All of those, I really like. It's just it's a difference of a fraction between incredible and really good, and that's kind of what you're dealing with when you're dealing with these people in this movie. So,
Yeah.
so yeah. What else did you want to talk about with Trial of the Chicago Seven?
I did have one negative for this, and I do think that the pacing and maybe the way the story is told,
Hmm.
it felt rushed in the beginning, and then it felt like it was dragging a little in parts of the middle. The ending is phenomenal. The way the movie, ties everything up. So
Hmm.
maybe on a second viewing, I can appreciate the tempo of it all. But initially, when I was first watching, I'm like, oh, okay, so we're here already. I felt like I was pushed into this without knowing enough. And yes, the movie does go into details about everything that went on afterwards. Like as the trial's going on, you get flashbacks and stuff like that. But I still felt like I could have done with more to maybe know these characters at least before the trial started, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, it's a huge ask, right? Because
Yeah,
we have
it's
to get
already a
right.
long movie.
We have to get right into it, and I think he did about the best thing you can do, which is before the title card is a quick interconnected. I think if nothing else, in that first 7 minutes before the title card, you get a sense for the culture of the moment, you get a sense for the details of the situation, and you get a sense for the personalities of our primary characters, right? You don't get necessarily backstory on them, or any kind of depth, but I think you get enough to set the chess pieces on the board and go, okay, now let's play. And I don't feel like I'm completely in the dark. But yes, in a perfect world, maybe you know a little bit more about them. But I don't know. I think he about did as good as he could with that, 7-minute intro
Yeah.
to bring it all together.
Like I said, I'm nitpicking here because
Sure.
it is that good of a movie.
Well,
So,
let me nitpick a little bit then, with what more specifically I was talking about earlier, about this feeling like a movie not lost to time, but in a different time. There are a couple moments in this movie, and again, we're not going to do a SIF spoil on this because it's based on a true story. You can look this stuff up. It's not all that surprising or unknown. And we're also not going to give away any of the big moments necessarily. But there are some of those moments that feel a little bit over the top and forced. There's a moment involving a child and parent that almost felt like it was out of an SNL sketch to me, because it was so. You could feel the violin trying to play, and them trying to pull the heartstrings. And there were just a couple of those moments where I was like, yeah, man, movies used to do this all the time, but we've kind of gotten used to a little more subtle kind of storytelling, a little more subtle kind of movie making. And Sorkin's just not, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to be subtle. That's not his thing. And so
yeah.
I eventually made peace with it, and watching it again, actually really like it. And I think it's the only way that Sorkin would do this. And, there's the other version is, it's not the movie he wanted to make. So I've made peace with it. But if there is a nitpick, if there is something about this movie that I go, this is why it's not an A+, it's that it's a little cheesy. It's a little over the top at times. Am I wrong about that? Did you not feel that at all?
I didn't really feel it, but I know what you're saying. It is a classic way to quote unquote humanize a character as
Yeah.
opposed to making them feel like a prop. Like they're a real person who has real emotions and they can feel things. There's a reason why it's a cliche,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm with you on that. I don't know if I would go with the word cheesy, but
Okay.
uh,
No,
I
I
do know what
probably
you're
wouldn't.
saying.
That's probably too strong. There were moments I felt like you might as well have people standing and doing a slow clap. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
just there. It felt like a little, a little emotion ringy, at times. It certainly doesn't ruin the movie, and it certainly is nitpicking because I love
It's
this movie.
good.
It's
It's
so
good.
good. It's so fun to watch. One thing we haven't talked about is just how much Sorkin loves dialogue and is able to create such fun and interesting dialogue between characters that there are scenes you just want to watch over and over again because of how it crackles. There's a scene in like a prep room between the Chicago 7, where they're talking about some stuff that I could watch 5 times in a row. It crackles, and there's scenes between the judge and the attorneys, that I don't know. He's so good at creating compelling dialogue that he just sweeps me away. And this movie is full of it. There are several moments that I can think back and go, oh, when that character said that, oh, when this thing happened. And
Yeah.
I just, that's one of my favorite parts about Sorkin, and it's definitely here.
Yeah, the first time that they're all called into that room, like whenever they're in recess and they're all in that room and they're like, "We told you to say this. Why can't you just do this and stuff like that?" The first time that they all gather in that room,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
besides Yaya, they it's like you just get the sense like everybody here knows their character. The costumes are on point. The set design is on point. These way that these guys are acting. They're not trying to steal the spotlight. They're all working together to make this one cohesive scene. If that's the scene you're talking about, which I think it might be,
Mm-hmm.
that it just makes you go, "Ugh, I'm in for a ride. This is going to be good."
It's
Everybody
definitely
knows
one
what
of
they're
them.
doing.
It's definitely one of them. And amongst the big scenes, you have little moments that are memorable, right? Like Jeremy Strong catching an egg, and Abby Hoffman saying, "Now don't know what to do with the egg, do you?" And he's like,
No,
"No."
yeah, I love that. That is the most. I think that moments like that, I'm like, yeah, that's Sorkin right there. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's all over this movie. It's all
yeah.
over this movie. So yeah, I had such a good time with this. I have no qualm saying it's a loved it movie for me, and it will be one that I rewatch
Are
occasionally.
Are you comfortable saying where it lands on your list of 2020?
I mean, I'm comfortable taking a guess. I have not done any of the actual legwork to look, but I'm guessing it's top three, for sure. So
Yeah, yeah.
for me,
I think I have it at 4. I think is where I have it at. But yeah, right there with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, yep. It's my fourth of the year.
before
So
we finish out this conversation, and if you have anything else to say, please feel free. But
no
I
post
did
credit scene.
want, thank you, thank you. I did want to ask what you think is is Netflix going to make some awards buzz with this? Do you think it's going to be? I mean, what a weird year. First of all, of course, but could this weird year be Netflix's time to actually take down the top prize, or who's gonna get nominated for acting? Will Sorkin get nominated for directing? What do you think?
It's going to be between two movies that I know of so far that I guess Netflix could technically do a push for both of these movies, but it's either this or Defy Bloods is
Hmm.
the one that they're really going to push for. And oddly enough, I have them right next to each other. I have Defy Bloods at number 3 and Chicago 7 at number 4.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. I think that so far, I don't think that even though I have two movies higher than these. Obviously, I have Tenet and Palm Springs higher than this. It's just because Palm Springs hit me at the right moment at the right time. I
Sure.
love that movie so much.
Sure.
I don't see that getting any awards buzz. Tenet, I don't see getting. It'll get the nominations. I don't see it getting the awards. Now, yeah, I think it is between Defy Bloods and Trial of Chicago 7. Of course, we still got, 3 months left for more stuff to come out, but right now I think those two movies from Netflix are the front runners. I really do.
Well, and even Netflix has another one coming out in a couple weeks that is sure to be amongst the conversation as well, and that's Mank. So
Oh, yeah, that's Jeff. Why can't I think of his name right now? Jeffrey. What's his name? Who's in that movie, Mank?
I would have to look it up. It is a story of Citizen Kane,
Yeah,
and I know it's um, I'm trying to
Gary
think
Oldman
of.
is who I'm trying to think. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Gary Oldman. And it's a David Fincher movie. I didn't know that was actually a Netflix movie.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yes, indeed it is. And in fact, they've got. I mean, and they're not done there. They've also got Rebecca coming out next week, I believe. So it's man, they are going for it. And in a weird year like this, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that shakes down. And we haven't even started to talk about Hubie Halloween yet, which of course is going to make a splash at the
No, it's true. We
Oscars.
haven't.
So we haven't even mentioned that. All right. We should do it. We should close up just by saying huge recommend from both of us. I'm sure you probably knew that even before you tuned into the podcast because you know how much we love Sorkin. But it is really good and I think is better than Molly's Game. And I just hope
Oh, yeah.
continues to get better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in the chat, somebody else mentioned Hillbilly Elegy, which is coming out from Netflix too, which is another one to look out for. So,
Yep.
it's the year of the flicks of the net, and we will see how that all shakes down. But yeah, let's move into it. Let's talk a little bit about another Oscar contender, Hubie Halloween. It's October 31st in Salem, Massachusetts, in a town's eccentric, devoted community. Volunteer in the good-natured object of his fellow citizens' derision and meanest pranks finds himself in the midst of a real investigation for a real murderer. Gung, gung, gung. This is Adam Sandler teaming up with Netflix, as he is wont to do, for a Halloween movie, because that's the season it is. Andrew, I guess I'll start here. Even before you do the liked it, loved it, when was the last time you really loved Adam Sandler movie?
Uncut Gems.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I assume you mean a comedy.
I did. But no, that's a perfectly fine answer. But I meant more like one where that he's producing and with
the Happy Madison.
Yeah, the Happy Madison production.
Oh, I think Happy Gilmore is like. I'm sure there's one that I'm not thinking of, but yeah, it's been a hot minute for sure.
So let me ask you this. Have you changed or has he changed?
No, I think the movies have changed.
Okay.
Because
so you think the movies have gotten worse, not your sense of humor has changed?
No, because I can go back to Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, all of those. Big Daddy. I did like Big Daddy. But I think I can go back and watch those and go, those are great movies. I think Happy Gilmore is a great movie. I think it's a great sports movie. It's just that, don't get me wrong, this is just, real quick speculation. I don't know if he's gotten lazy and he's just relying on callbacks now. I mean, that's what this movie is, not to get into it right now, but it's a bunch of references, and I think he's doing a caricature of the characters he used to play.
Yeah.
It's like memory lane, that's what his whole gimmick is right now.
All right, I will answer those questions as well, but before I do, did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
It's a terrible movie, but I think it's okay. Just okay.
What a great response. What an interesting response. I like that response quite a bit. To answer my own questions, I think the last time I really loved a Happy Madison produced movie was probably Mr. Deeds.
I did like Mr. Deeds. I forget that. See, I was thinking, there's one that I know I'm forgetting. I did like Mr. Deeds.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. I did laugh at that. The second question I would answer differently than you. I think I've changed. I don't know that these movies are much different than the movies he was making then. They felt a little fresher then. And like you said, this movie definitely feels like there's a lot of retread in it, because that is part of his shtick, is to bring the same people that he loves into a movie to do their own little roles, their own little cameos, and, to make dumb jokes and to do a weird character. This character is very similar to other characters Adam Sandler has done, whether it be the Water
Bobby
Boy.
Boucher.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying, but I do think part of it for me is there's just a nostalgia with those older Adam Sandler movies like Happy Gilmore or why can't I think of the one where he went back to school?
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison. So there's a nostalgia with those that I think we put a little light on those, but they're probably humor-wise fairly similar to what he's still doing now. The chat has mentioned like 50 First Dates, Wedding Singer. I don't know if those count as Happy Madison movies, do they? I guess they kind of do.
I honestly have no idea. If they are, then I like them.
Yeah, I do. I do enjoy those as well. So yeah, I just think he's doing the same thing, and it's just not fresh to me anymore, and I don't have that same level of nostalgia for him. I hated this movie for the first, I'm going to say 40 minutes. And then it was almost like I was watching Shakespeare. And let me explain what I mean by that. It takes me about 30 minutes to watch a Shakespeare adaptation where they're actually using the language of Shakespeare before I fall into it enough to feel like I kind of am in the zone of the movie and understand what's going on. And about 40 minutes into this, I just kind of gave myself out to the silliness and just said, I'm watching a dumb Adam Sandler movie, and that's okay. And once that happened, I was like, that's kind of funny. And there were moments I was like, no, that's actually kind of funny. And then there were moments where I was like, wait, is this plot actually good? Like, is it, what is happening where it gets to the end, and we won't spoil the end necessarily, But it does some things at the end where I'm just like, that's actually pretty well plotted. That's actually, a pretty interesting place to go and has an interesting message to say. And I couldn't tell if it was just because I had just thrown away all my expectations and was just like, we're just going for a ride, or if maybe this movie isn't as bad as I thought it was. And so I'm kind of with you that I feel like maybe this is a terrible movie that's okay,
Yeah.
And so I was going to land on actually the high side of okay. I laughed enough that I'm just like, this is okay. And if you want to just have a good time and watch a dumb Adam Sandler movie, this is definitely one of them. So
Yeah.
I know that's not like high praise or anything, but I was surprised
It's
I
what it
ended there.
deserves,
Yeah.
There, I'll say this: there was a moment in this movie that got a really loud laugh out of me. A really loud laugh.
Can you hint? Can you give me a hint?
It deals with a cat making a face.
Okay. Yes.
Like it got. I don't know if it was just like I wasn't prepared for it, but I laughed a lot, and it was one of those laughs where you go back and you rewatch that, like you rewind it and then you watch it, and then it just confirms, yeah, that was really funny. But I don't think the rest of the movie I really laughed, but I was I guess the word is invested, but that seems too excessive for like.
Sure.
I didn't mind watching it. That's the thing. Like
Right.
I'll never watch it again. Never watch it again. But like while I was watching it, I wasn't going like, "Oh, I can't believe I'm watching this." Like I was okay with watching it,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're just okay with watching a stupid movie.
In case you weren't counting, that is 7 stupids from
Yeah.
Andrew. It is stupid times 7.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to question myself sometimes, and I have to say, there are moments as a movie critic where I'm just like, you cannot fall into the trap of, because it's not for me and because I have quote unquote grown past it or whatever, doesn't mean it shouldn't exist, right? Doesn't mean it shouldn't be there for people to enjoy. And I have to constantly check myself and go, okay, this movie deserves to be looked at on its own merits for what it's trying to do. This movie isn't trying to be an Oscar contender. It's not trying to be anything overly special, and yet it succeeds, on some of those levels. Not levels of Oscar contender, but on levels of humor and what people might want out of it. And I am apt to, as many people are, I think, who love movies, to be dismissive and say, why does Netflix keep giving him money for these stupid movies? Well, you know what? I can tell you why. Because they are getting a lot of views on these movies. And there's no way they give him the money they gave him to produce movies for them if they didn't know the algorithm was showing that people love watching these movies. And that's okay. And those doesn't make those people any less of a movie connoisseur, any less of a movie lover. It just means they love different movies and are connoisseurs of different movies than I would be. And so I keep trying to remind myself of that with movies like this.
I agree with you. I want to expand on that a little bit from how I feel. Yes, you as a film critic, you're not supposed to be pretentious and say just because this isn't an Oscar-worthy movie that it's not worth watching.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as a critic, you also have to, realize that you're not reviewing for the masses. You're giving an honest opinion of how you felt. And people have to find
Right.
a critic that, they would align with most of the time, so they would get a better sense of whether they would like a specific movie or not. So, yeah, you can say, yeah, it's not a movie for me, but you also have to say it's a stupid movie. And you think it's a stupid movie, but it's okay that it's a stupid movie.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
It does. It does. I just know that I just try to be very careful to do 2 things. Number one, if I'm reviewing a movie here on Sif Pop or wherever, I want you to know 2 things. Number one, I want you to know what I thought of the movie. Number 2, and I think more importantly, I want to give you the information you need to know what you will think of the movie, so you can, make a decision on whether you want to spend your time on it or money on it or whatever, right?
That's what I was trying to say.
So there are two different things there, and I think this is one of those situations where I go, what did I think of the movie? I thought it was dumb. I thought it was stupid. I laughed occasionally. Not a great movie. What might you think of the movie? If you love Adam Sandler, you're going to love this movie. This is very much an Adam Sandler movie, and it is funny, and it is the kind of funny that he does. It is those cameos and those stupid jokes that I would call stupid jokes, but you may just call hilarious jokes. So I'm trying to make sure that I put myself in a place where I can do both things efficiently and do both things so that somebody who hears what we have to say knows, okay, this is maybe what I'll think about this movie. In fact, I think if you like Adam Sandler comedies, you're going to like this one more than a lot of the others. I think it's better than a lot of his recent stuff that I've checked out.
Than his recent stuff, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
think that's what we're saying.
It hits all the notes of, a classic Adam Sandler movie. It has, his Bobby Boucher kind of character. It has the love interest with the VV name,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Violet Valentine in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think is that what her name was. There's been like Veronica Vaughn and what have been some of the other names that
I would not remember, but I know what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, they all have VV names. I'll say this though. When the movie starts, it starts off with a cameo with a character from another movie. That one made me really happy. Like right out of the gate, I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm really glad that I get to see this one because I think he does a good job of bringing back like very not unknown characters, but non-important characters. It's not like you're going to see Shooter McGavin in this movie or anything like that. You know, it's characters that didn't really have a big enough role to where you would think that they're out of place, but he's creating a Sandler verse, I guess you could say.
Yes. The SCU. Yeah.
The SCU, this Sandler Cinematic Universe. But no. Yeah, it's a difficult movie because yes, I have to say this is a stupid movie. I was okay watching it and I laughed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think that's where
take that what you will.
What did you think of the end? Did you like the end? Not like the end? I really liked the end. It was my favorite part of the movie.
It's a good enough message, but it's just.
Did you see it coming? Because I didn't.
No, I did not see it coming. Yeah, I don't. I thought that there were enough, like, what would you call, like fake, red herrings and stuff like that.
Sure.
I'm like,
yeah,
I know it's not this, and I know it's not this, but not knowing is different than knowing who it is. Like, I've narrowed it down to people. Like, it could be anybody else in the movie except for these people it wants me to think it is. But no, it made sense, and there's like a call to better yourself at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
That if the movie wasn't as dumb and like ridiculous as it is, I think it would be more powerful. But I didn't mind it. I thought, hey, yeah, they're not wrong. It's a very good message to stand by, and we should all adhere to it. But it was just encompassed by this silly film.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe I liked it a little bit more than you did.
I think you did.
Especially considering the ending, because for me it was more than just the message. The ending to me, and I think I mentioned this earlier, I thought we got there in a really well-executed way. I felt like the plot, by the end, worked really well. And so I was not expecting that. I was not expecting like a genuine, not murder mystery, which is another recent of his movies, which I don't think is as good as this, although kind of falls in the same category for me. But there is a mystery to it. There's a Halloween aspect to it. There's, almost a horror movie kind of winky aspect to it. And, if you can combine that, or at least being somewhat efficient at that, with, June Squibb wearing raunchy T-shirts type humor, like you're going to have a blast. Like, it's just going to be your favorite thing ever. Like this, I can really see people enjoying this. I thought Julie Bowen was fun. She didn't have a ton to do, but she was fun. There is a joke with Shaquille O'Neal that I think doesn't work at all. It was the
No,
one part of the movie where I was just like, nope, that doesn't work.
no, it's super stupid.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like they had that character lined up, and they're like, how can we get Shaquille O'Neal in this movie? I guess make him that character, and then just
yeah.
make him the joke that it's him. Yeah, it was really bad.
I thought Tim Meadows and Maya Rudolph were great together. I liked their stuff. I thought they were funny. I thought Kevin James was fine and funny. The Steve Buscemi, Rob Schneider stuff was, fine. Like, it's just, and Keenan's always great. I love seeing Keenan and stuff. I'm not sure what Ray Liotta was doing in this movie.
I guess he was just there,
right? Or Michael Chiklis, kind of the same thing, but
I didn't mind Chiklis as much as Leota. Leota just seemed like he was really forcing that character. They're all forcing that character, but
sure,
they're all forcing a character that they have perfected over the years.
Well,
and I think he's just not.
And that's kind of the theme, right? Is Sandler makes movies to have fun, and he's giving his actor friends a place just to go be stupid and have fun. He's giving them a place to all, go to Hawaii and make a movie together, and you know what I mean? Like, he's just like, you get the sense that he has taken his success for whatever that is and his ability to get things greenlit and make movies, and he's just said, I'm gonna have fun with this, and I'm gonna make money with this, and man, I can't fault him for that, right?
No,
like,
it's kind of envious.
Right.
Of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm Sandler is one of those people that, if nothing else, I feel like he is very confident in just being who he wants to be and doing what he wants to do and not feeling like he has to prove anything. And then when he does step out of his quote unquote comfort zone, which I don't know necessarily what his comfort zone is, but when he does do something like Uncut Gems, then it's special, right? Like, then it's, then it's different. And then there are all the people like, why doesn't he always do this? And it's like, because that's not what he wants to always do, and that's okay. And so, yeah, I find myself really defending him a lot, even though I don't particularly like the movies he's making overall. So, I don't know. It's an interesting topic for me to think about Sandler.
Yep.
I don't know. Again, I guess for recommendation, just take what we've said, and and if you're going to think it's too stupid to enjoy, or if you're going to be able to have a good time with it. And it's right on Netflix for you. Either way. So, yep. All right. Before we move on to the best ever challenge, just want to take some time to thank our amazing Sif Pop members at Patreon. As mentioned, we did a Halloween edition of the members only pre-show where we talked about Halloween movies. We each did a scary and a non-scary movie that would fit with the season that we would recommend. If you want to hear that, all our Sif Pop members get those every single week in your own bonus podcast feed. So you'll just have your own dedicated podcast with all the bonus stuff in it as well. And support starts at $3 a month. You can check out all the details at the Patreon, patreon.com/siftpop to check that out. And thank you for those who already support and are already members. We really appreciate you. All right, let's move on to the best ever challenge for this week. In honor of the trial of the Chicago 7, we, as well as the website, sifpop.com, are doing best ever courtroom dramas. This is a fairly decent sized category. There are certainly a lot that I like that I won't have mentioned here. So if you have any and you're watching live and you want to make sure your best ever courtroom drama gets mentioned, go ahead and throw it in the chat. And we'll take some of your choices once we kind of do our 5 through number 1. Andrew, why don't you kick us off? What's your number 5 best ever courtroom drama?
I want to say beforehand, as I was making this list, I realized that there are so many courtroom dramas that people would consider in their top 5 that I just haven't seen. And I know that either you or the chat is going to mention them. If it's not in my top 5, it's because I haven't seen it. I just want to make sure people know that.
That's right.
But I am going to start off my list with number 5 with a good old Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, John Cusack, and Rachel Weisz film, and that is Runaway Jury.
Ooh.
Little
Crichton.
Yeah.
No, not Michael.
No, this is John Grisham.
I always get those two mixed up because they were the two that I always, like, when I was growing up, was like, oh, when's the new Grisham book coming? When's the new Crichton book coming? But yes, John Grisham.
No. This is it's not like stellar, like blow your mind movie. It's a fun movie though. I think it's really good. There's scenes where Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman are just like going at one another, and it's magic seeing two titans of cinema go back and forth and shout the words colored bubbles at one another. Colored bubbles,
Bubbles,
yeah.
my bubbles. Sorry, that's a different movie.
My bubble. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is one you might not think is a courtroom drama, but I think it's fair to classify it as such. And it's kind of a horror courtroom drama. And that would be The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And I think one of the reasons...
Yeah. No, I would.
One of the reasons I really like this movie, when I don't generally like horror movies, is because of the courtroom stuff and because of the putting it kind of in the real world in that way. And it's a movie that makes you think. It's a movie that might scare you. I think it's certainly one worth mentioning this time of year. But yeah, I really dig the Emercism of Exley Rose. I really dig it. So yeah, one I would definitely encourage you to check out.
No, yeah, because I like the fact that, as opposed to movies like The Exorcist, where it makes a definitive statement. Yes, this person is possessed. This one adds a little conflict and some maybe doubt as to what really happened. It's a decent movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it.
All right. So my
What's your number
4? This is, I don't know if you'll trump this or not, but I'm going to go with To Kill a Mockingbird.
Good choice. Yeah, that's in my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the most famous courtroom, drama of all time. One of the most beloved movies of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, Gregory Peck is just, Atticus Finch, I mean, I think if you, look at a list of heroes in movies, I've seen multiple lists, where it lists, greatest characters in film, and Atticus Finch is always number 1.
Yeah.
And, I get it. That's all I got to say. If you haven't seen it, then you've heard about it, and you should see it.
Yeah, and you should. It really is. It is one of the best, and mentioned for good reason. My number 4, I'm already assuming is going to be trumped because I know how much you love this movie. But at my number 4, I had 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I figured as much. What's your number 3?
I am gonna go. I mean, if Daniel Day-Lewis is in a movie, then it's going to be in my top list of something. So I'm going to go with In the Name of the Father.
Good choice. Good choice.
Have you seen this one?
I have, yes.
Yeah. Powerful movie. It feels a lot like The Trial of Chicago 7, just British's version of The Trial of Chicago 7.
That's fair. Yeah.
This is more of a cover-up scandal by the government as opposed to just mishandling what I think The Trial of Chicago 7 is. This is more, I can't believe that this happened to these people for so long.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you have both Pete Postlethwaite and Daniel Day-Lewis in this. That's all I got to tell you.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to. Oh, and Emma Thompson. Yeah, those 3. Why haven't you seen this?
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Nope,
Your number 3?
My number 3 is A Few Good Men.
I have it at number 2. We can go ahead and talk about it.
Well, we would anyway, because then you would trump it, and we'd go to your number 2, and we would talk about it. So yeah, let's talk about A Few Good Men, if you can handle the truth.
I can't handle that truth, but you know what, Aaron, you need me on that wall.
I need you on this review.
I watched this yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and just to make sure that I wanted to make sure it was right on my list, right where I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's shocking how a movie can get better every single time you watch it.
Yeah.
No matter how many times you watch it, you find something else that you're like, wow, that is great. And this time for me, it was how good Demi Moore is in this movie.
Nice.
I always Tom Cruise is great, Jack Nicholson's great, Kevin Bacon, they're all great. Even Kevin Pollak is great. But this one, I was like, why have I never appreciated the work that Demi Moore is doing in this movie? She's great, and I
Yeah.
feel stupid for not recognizing and appreciating it earlier. But no, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she is really good. Yeah, good call.
So this is your number 2 now.
Yeah, and it's certainly well, it's my number 3. A Few Good Men is.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
get to number 2, but I did want to say this. It's also again, it's a good thing to talk about when we're talking about another Sorkin courtroom drama for our movies. To again remember that he wrote this, and it really was his kind of explosion onto the screen as far as Sorkin's
Hey,
concerned,
I'm
right?
here. Yeah.
Yeah, like it announced the arrival of an incredible writer, and when you see Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson go at it on the stand, you may see two of the greatest performances of all time, but you're also seeing that helped by one of the greatest writing performances of all time, and that's certainly worth remembering. So yeah, it's
Absolutely.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can go to my number 2. I have Liar Liar at number 2. I love this movie.
I know you do.
It is one of my favorite comedies. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, and I think it really for me was the first time for me that I saw that there was something else underneath the surface of Jim Carrey more than just pulling faces. And I was impressed with that he could both do the "this pen is blue" scene and then also do the real father-son stuff, the divorced couple stuff, and have it feel authentic. And I laugh a lot in this movie, but I think it's really elevated by the relationships that you feel are real in this movie. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the best thing in the world whenever Jim Carrey does the claw, but whenever Carrie Elwes does it, it's just not the same.
It's just
You
not the
know,
same.
not
It's
the
just not
same.
the same. Uh,
Um,
Number 1.
yeah. So this is obviously where I have 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, talk about it.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time. Henry Fonda. I don't want to. I'm not going to list off this whole cast, but no, it's a fascinating look at people's biases, people's assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
and it. I think it's a good, and I don't think that people appreciate it enough for what it's trying to do, and that is shine a light on how faulty and scary our justice system can be as far as jury pools go. You
Sure.
don't know what you're inviting in to you're inviting in ignorance, you're inviting in prejudice, you're inviting in
Mm-hmm.
so many things that can
Humanness. You're inviting
yeah,
humans. Yeah.
exactly. Uh and it just takes one guy, hopefully. All it takes is one guy to shine truth on otherwise prejudice and save a life. So no,
Yeah.
I think it's and it's also one of the if no, I think it is the greatest movie that is set in one scene.
Mm.
There's one room, like kind of like Locke is in the car only, or buried is only in the coffin. This is only in the jurors' room. You
Yeah, and
know.
I go to the Hitchcocks like Rope and Rear Window, which are single location
hmm
movies. Lifeboat's another Hitchcock that does a single location.
Oh, I guess yeah. Rear Window. Yeah, it's all in his room, just looking out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think I just always assumed because you see the courtyard and you see all the other apartments. But
Right.
you're
Yeah.
right. It's all from his apartment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So
It's
that would leave your number one.
it would leave my number 1. I do also want to mention with 12 Angry Men, it is a great jury movie, and there's always a jury moment in these courtroom dramas. There's even a jury moment in the trial of the Chicago 7 that is really compelling. And I just, it's our court system is not perfect, and it often gets it very wrong. But it is a nice effort, and the people who serve on juries for important cases, as flawed as they may be, have a huge weight to what they're doing, and so I definitely respect that, and I love that part of courtroom dramas when it deals with jury stuff. My number 1 is probably not a surprise. The Social Network is my number 1 courtroom drama. So with this movie, and ooh, it looks like I'm Jesse Eisenberg right now. That's amazing on the video. You have to go back and see that video. That was almost perfect, Phil. So that was incredible. No, I love the Social Network. I obviously love this movie. I've talked about it many times. Love what it does, and love the courtroom parts of the Social Network as well. So that is my number one. And we're gonna pause just briefly for the recording of this because I believe we lost Andrew. I could be incorrect about that, but I will. Let's see. Okay. Once Andrew is back, we will go ahead and transition into Buried Treasure once he gets back, because we'll need him back for the recording, if nothing else. And if it doesn't happen soon, then we'll just hang out and chat with the chat. Let's see. I do love this. The 1 week I watch on YouTube instead of Twitch, all the conversation is over here. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on at Twitch. That's a great choice. Inherit the Wind, Philadelphia, Primal Fear, I think would fit as well. We can actually save that for the show. So we'll talk about that again, Polly. That's from Twitter. Lolly, I didn't know that part of the story, and maybe I should do a little more research kind of into what happened. Lolly says in the real world, she was, this is Exorcism of Emily Rose, that she was 100% abused and killed, which I was unaware of. So I may need to check that out to dig a little bit deeper. All right, we will, once Andrew is back, we will continue through the show, or we may just have to go. Producer Phil, what do you think? Should we wait for him to get back?
My mic was mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Producer Phil.
Everybody, my mic was muted there for a second. Sorry about that. Andrew texted and said he is trying to reconnect. So I think he just lost the connection somehow. So yeah, it might just be another minute or two before he's able to get in.
Lollipop Shoe says, "Arg, we lost him. Andrew, follow the sound of our voices. Andrew." I hope I did your message good, Lolly. I hope I performed it well.
I thought it was pretty good.
Thank you, Phil. How's the show going from your side? People may want a little behind this. We'll just do a little quick behind the scenes while we're waiting for Andrew.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I have not seen either of these movies, so I can't really comment. But I'm very excited to watch both. A Few Good Men is like one of my favorite drama movies, period. Like of every drama that I've ever seen, A Few Good Men was one of the first R-rated movies that I ever watched.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I think it came just at that right time, and when I was allowed, like, you know, my parents were pretty strict as far as like you have to be a certain age to watch it. Yeah, and so yeah, once the floodgates were open, that was one of the first ones I watched, and I was just blown away by the plot and the acting, and just the politics of everything that was going on in that movie was just really fascinating. And I didn't really know hardly anything about Guantanamo before watching the movie, and I think it just like really taught me a lot along the way. So A Few Good Men is a really special one to me. So.
That's cool. That might be a good topic for someday, somewhere, to talk about like the first R-rated movies, not necessarily even that you saw, but that you wanted to see. Like once it was like, oh, I can watch whatever movies I want to watch. You know, what were the R-rated movies that you ended up watching? For me, that was college, by the way. I didn't see a rated R movie until I was in college.
Yeah.
Which I know some people think is crazy. That's just the life I lived. And
it was honestly, almost college for me. So
yeah, I'm honestly like, I don't hold that against anybody. I'm not upset about it. Probably protected my developing brain from, some things. I don't know, whatever. But the first R-rated movie I saw was, what's the one with the Brat Pack where St. Elmo's Fire, St. Elmo's Fire. And it was in a class at college for a class. And I didn't know it was rated R until after we watched it. And I was like, oh man, that was my first rated R movie. And I didn't even get to choose. So So there was that, and then of course it was like people wanted me to watch. My other film friends wanted me to watch Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs and like the Tarantino stuff that was really fresh and new then. And so those were some of my other first R-rated movies. Did not like Reservoir Dogs. I haven't revisited it since, and I wonder if it was just too much for me as somebody who hadn't seen an R-rated movie to go straight into Tarantino, maybe a little much. So I kind of almost want to revisit Reservoir Dogs because of that. But then again, Tarantino still is a little much for me. Like, there's still an element of Tarantino that I watch and I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with, which is a weird way to say it, but so he goes to the edges.
So Doc Trancy in the chat says his first rated R movie was Alien, the original Alien movie, and that was an early one for me too. I would say that was probably one of the first 5 movies that I watched when I was like the floodgates were open, so to speak. So yeah, the first the Alien series is really a big one for me. Terminator, like T2 and stuff like that. I'd never seen those until I was 17. So. It's so funny how like my parents were just like, okay, you can watch rated R movies now, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna binge, like I'm just gonna go the next 2 or 3 weeks is gonna be all rated R movies.
Yeah. I'm trying to think how early on like Saving Private Ryan and Braveheart were in that, like, there were some rated R movies that it was like I know we're early on in that. And I should clarify, you know what? No, it's still true. What I'm saying is true. I was going to say I saw other rated R movies growing up. But that was more of like, and I think I've talked about this before, but that was more like the friend who had the rated R movie that had nudity in it. And it was like, fast forward to the nudity part, that kind of thing, growing up. But that's not watching a movie. So, so I don't think that would count. But yeah, as far as actually sitting and watching a rated R movie, it was college for sure. Let's see. Applicant says the first rated R movie for me was probably Terminator, but that was watched at home. Surprisingly, Airplane was only PG, but in my memory should have been R. That's another thing. Before the PG-13 rating was invented, there were several PG movies that probably would have been R based on the qualifications today. Striker Watch says, I believe my first would have been Terminator 2 with my dad.
Probably the Terminator series is probably a lot of people's first rated R because those movies were so popular.
All right, so my brother is saying the first rated R would be Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom's
that's
not
13.
Yeah, that's PG. That was one of the very first PG-13 movies, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I've heard differing like disagreeing stories on this, but like I have heard the story that like that was one of the ones that they like invented PG-13 for.
Right,
I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's part of the urban legend that I've heard.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before too. That it was one of those that they were like, we really need something in between PG and R or whatever. And
I think 13 is just right for that movie. Like the other Indiana Jones movies, I think, are a little bit more pulpy, a little more silly. Not necessarily, like his life is in danger. You watch them like pulling people's hearts out of their chest, and you're just like, this is maybe not R, but there needs to be something in between.
Yeah. Lollipop Shoe says, not sure what its American rating was, but I saw Carrie way too young and was more disturbed by the locker room scene than any of the murder and destruction. No, that's an R-rated movie. Carrie's definitely an R-rated movie. So yeah, Applicant says Temple of Doom was PG. So it was before the PG-13 rating, and maybe it was one of the ones that was like, do we really want people pulling hearts out being PG? Shouldn't there be something?
So they settled for PG as opposed to R, and then kind of regretted it later. We're like, we probably should change this.
Maybe something like that. But it was right around that time. So yeah. Any more messages from Andrew about coming back to us?
He said trying to restart his router, so that doesn't sound good. I think he's definitely having internet problems.
Well, let's do this. Let's do this. We've just got one segment left. We'll just call it a show for the video side of things today, and then once Andrew can kind of get around, we'll record the audio for the rest of the podcast. If that works for you.
Yeah.
Bill, is that all right?
Yeah, I'll just hang out here just in case you need to bounce something off me. But I'll just let you take it from here.
Thank you all. Appreciate you all hanging out with us. And hey, Phil, do you know, will these comments still be available once we stop the show?
Like the comments like in the chat?
Yeah, so that I can mention some people in their best ever courtroom dramas.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to kill the live show because it's Halloween, and Halloween is when you murder things, apparently. No, we're going to do that because we can't get Andrew back on, and we will see you next week. But if you want to hear the rest of this podcast, be sure to subscribe to Sif Pop through whatever you use to listen to podcasts. So you can hear us then, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.